A mostly quiet weather pattern across the United States today and probably tomorrow as well. Things will pick up a little bit in the plains on Friday with some severe weather risks, but in the east, the weather looks pretty good for the most part right through the weekend. Next week, however, could bring a different scenario as the block evolves. We'll have all that and so much more. You'll be stunned to silence on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Something that you and I are hardly ever stunned to is silence.
Well, I just said to you that this might be the shortest Joe and Joe show on record because unless you want to pontificate on potential gloom and doom for a good hunk of next week, which I know nobody would like to hear about, and we could pontificate upon the lovely stretch of dry, albeit rather windy and coolish, if not downright cold weather that we're
Yes.
going to see. We're never going to see spring, never, Joe, until this block finally breaks. Unless you want to be profound on any one of those things, then I guess we could just go on for ever and ever.
Yeah, I was 35 this morning, but I did make it up to 72.
You don't
Excuse
look a
me.
day over, and you don't look a day over 30 without the beard,
No,
Joe.
I understand. No, but we did get to 72, and I certainly feel like I'm 72 right now physically, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. However, yeah, it does look fairly quiet. I think some upsides are the fact that uh, the storm that's offshore to the northeast, and you've got the cold high that's up in the northern lakes, doesn't really move very much until Friday night when the low starts to pull out. And I think that sets up actually for a decent weekend, and temperatures should rebound a little bit. I mean, we'll be able to. I think we're going to bounce into the 60s both Saturday and maybe even mid to upper 60s on Sunday. But I do also think that the whole structure of the block is going to change a bit next week, so that we're going to have some traffic coming in from the west. And hey, there's also some hints that maybe at the end of next week we could wind up with a nice little low sitting off the mid-Atlantic coast somewhere. I don't think that's impossible given the blockiness, but definitely dry for the next next 4 days. If you count today, it would be five, and then next week it looks like I think we have probably three opportunities for rain moving in.
I agree. I absolutely agree. But I think the main concern over the next couple of nights will be the unseasonable cold conditions here in the Hudson Valley, Joe. I think actually the coldest weather that we're going to see here is probably going to be tomorrow night, not tonight, partially because we're getting off to a rather cloudy start tonight, at least in my vicinity. We will eventually see skies go partly cloudy to clear, but I think the winds are just going to be too strong to consider any kind of frost for tonight. And even tomorrow night, the winds are still going to be active, although tomorrow night it will be clearer out there. But 30s tonight, 30s tomorrow, wind chills tonight and again tomorrow, probably dropping into the 20s. And I think tomorrow, even though we're going to have sunshine, it will be ineffective in getting the temperatures to go much above the 50 or low to mid 50s. It'll probably feel more like the 40s out there tomorrow, and then we'll warm up a little bit, but not all that much. But still, lots of sunshine for Friday, and it is good that we're going to have a stretch of dry weather. We're not going to see any precip, I think, tonight, tomorrow night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Our next chance of getting wet will be when the already promoted gloom and doom begins to develop here with some shower activity. That'll be for the start of next week on Monday.
Yeah, there are some freeze warnings that are up for some inland areas, well inland and west and south actually. Uh, yeah, the big plus is the fact that at least with the wind mixing the air at night, you probably won't have any frost issues, and that's a good thing. The other thing is too, because we had it happen a few times, since more than a few times during the month of March and April, where we had these upper troughs kind of park themselves into the northeast, and we dealt with instability, cloudiness, and instability showers. I don't think we're going to see much of that the next 2 days. Everything seems to be far enough east as far as where the upper low is that the atmosphere should be a little more stable. I don't know if it'll be completely cloud free, but I do think that at least from the standpoint of having scattered showers around, I don't think that's going to be a problem.
No, I'm not. We're not looking, I think, at anything significant or heavy. But psychologically speaking, it really is a downer when you wake up, look out the window, you see maybe the ground is already wet a little bit, and you step outside and you get ready to pull the car out and head to work or school, and it's not that heavy duty rain, but it's just that nuisance rain where the windshield wipers may even be put on intermittent. And of course, you also have the temperatures, which we're still waiting to get, a stretch or protracted period of near or above normal temperatures. Joe, it does not look like that is in the cards for any time soon. In fact, if anything, we may make our way into the second week of May with a continuation of below normal temperatures. I really do not see any kind of uh, change toward milder or a spell of above normal temperatures up here for quite some time to come, maybe for the next week or two at least.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Not for the next couple of weeks. Mid-May and beyond, maybe, but I really don't see that. As long as we have this blocky pattern, we have this negative North Atlantic oscillation with the higher than normal pressures over the North Atlantic and the Arctic, and we're still seeing cold air masses from northern Canada and the Arctic region getting dispersed, and there will come a day where those cold air masses will be gone, uh, but not today, and certainly not in the next 2 weeks. Meanwhile, Johnny Quest sent me last night. There was some showers and thunderstorms in across parts of Virginia, and he's in northwestern Virginia near Harrisonburg. And I don't. He took these pictures here. I don't know if you can see it. Well, maybe I'll try to make it a little bit bigger. Where'd it go? Oh, good Lord! Why does it do that? Hang on a second. No, that's the hail shot. I want the other shot
Welcome
first.
to 21st century technology, brought to you by.
Kellogg's. Because your best meal starts with breakfast. Yeah, again? Oh, good God. Let's try it one more time.
Well, I
Okay.
see this. I see it looks like a tornado. Tornado.
Yes, it is. And no, that's the wrong shot. Here's the tornado shot. Yeah, it does look like there was at least a funnel cloud that formed there behind the housing complex that you see. Oh, that's actually, it looks like a Motel 6. I can't, or a Super 8.
Did
I
they leave
can't.
the light?
No,
Did they leave the light on for you,
it's
Joe?
it's a Super 8. And again,
Okay.
and then take a look at this hail. That's
Wow.
that's pretty sizable. And in fact, he had 7 inches of snow from last week with the storm that impacted the interior Northeast. But that should have been all gone by now. But I'm kind of looking at this chunk of ice. It looks like that broken chunk of ice there by the edge of the pavement. That, maybe there was still a little bit of leftover snow cover. Johnny should elaborate on that. But that is still pretty impressive on top of everything else that happened yesterday. So we thank you very much, Johnny Quest, for supplying me with this picture. And with respect to the block, Mr. Rayo, so let me just bring up a graphic that I put up today on my subscription platform on Patreon. But this is the upper air for early next week. Just to give you an idea, the upper low that's over Nova Scotia now is going to sit there for a couple of days, and then it's going to move east of Newfoundland and just kind of sit there for a little while. And you just see it there. Upper low pulls out to the east. It's almost in that what we always refer to as the 50-50 position, 50 north, 50 west. And what it does is that it finally opens up the I don't want to use the word floodgates, but it opens up the highway, let's say, for short waves that are coming into the western part of the United States to start moving across. And we have one that's going to be approaching on Monday. There's another one that is from Montana down into Texas on Wednesday, and there's an even stronger one that comes into the Pacific Northwest, and that would be a system at the end of the week for Friday. So we're going from just basically the one system this week, which was the cold front yesterday, and a break. Next week, again, because of the way the upper low, the way the block is set up, you still have higher than normal pressures all up in the North Atlantic, but with that low pulling out, it finally allows these weather systems in the west that up until now were turning northward and going up through the northern plains and going even well west of the Great Lakes. Well, now they're going to be able to move east and they're going to try to undercut that block. So I'm going to be very curious to see how this all evolves later next week because I could see that last short wave, which is a bit of a powerhouse coming into the Pacific Northwest, becoming something a little more important toward the end of next week.
Okay, well, we'll have to wait. Obviously, as Rayo's rule likes to say, anything beyond 4 or 5 days is more an educated guess than anything else. But up until that
Well, I'd
time,
like to guess that
well,
we were
we
educated.
yeah, well, it does look at least over the next several days that we are going to have dry weather, but it is also going to be again rather windy. I could see tomorrow, Joe. Today we had some gusts, 35 to 40 miles an hour, and it looks like that's going to be the story again tomorrow. If maybe a tad more gustier, if I may use that terminology. And again, I don't think we're going to see any frost in spite of the cold temperatures here in the Hudson Valley. 30s overnight tonight, and again tomorrow night. But I think the winds are just going to be a little bit too strong to allow for the development of frost on either night or either tomorrow morning or Friday morning. But take my word for it, if you're outside these next couple of nights, factor that wind in, and it is going to feel pretty darn cold with temperatures mostly, wind chill temperatures mostly in the 20s. And my goodness, we're just a few days away from May, and I'm talking about wind chills still, and that rhymes in the
Yes.
20s.
Uh, got the satellite view up, and at least right now, excuse me. Uh,
You're excused.
yeah, it's a little pollen in the air here today. But there, you have your low center, a fairly tight pressure gradient. There's, the low's down around in the 990s, and the high is in the like around 10 in the high 1020s, low 1030s. So the gradient is spread over a larger distance, but it's fairly tight. It's not tight enough for wind advisories. And of course, with all the mixing that's going to be going on, of course, as you said, tomorrow it's just going to feel colder than the actual thermometer says. Even with, I think we'll have maybe a little more sunshine than we had today. But you can see the clouds in Pennsylvania and upstate New York on the backside of this. Those should thin out somewhat as this low moves a little bit further to the east. And then what it's going to do is it's probably going to reform again in the Gulf of Maine or do a little bit of a loop, and then finally start to pull out later on Friday. Meanwhile, on the west side of the high, we've got moisture coming up into the plains. We have a little bit of severe weather risk and some energy trying to move to the east. So we'll take a look at that. The Storm Prediction Center actually added a small area of slight risk in northwest Texas, the Oklahoma Panhandle, and in southern Kansas, with a larger area of marginal risk enveloping or enveloping around it, and another small area of marginal risk in western Wyoming and eastern Idaho. Then we have on tomorrow, we just have a couple of areas of marginal risk in a little further east into Texas, a little further east into Oklahoma and central Kansas, and then also up into western Nebraska. Now on day 3, which is Friday into Saturday, the Storm Prediction Center already has a small area of enhanced risk for northeastern Kansas. So this includes or is just on the border of Kansas City. Ms. Fowlerite might be interested in this, but we've got an enhanced risk there and a larger area of slight risk as the low tries to move on to the east, but it's got that block in the way, so it's gonna have a real tough time moving eastward. And we have some long range stuff, I think. On day 4, we have a small area of 15% risk in southeastern Missouri, southern Illinois, western Kentucky, and western Tennessee. in virtually, oh, then on day 5, and this is Sunday into Monday, it we get a small area there in West Texas, and day 6, that area moves northeast into northeast Texas and southern Oklahoma. Day 7, predictability too low. Day 8, predictability too low, which means that, well, they're not sure. There's probably going to be some severe weather somewhere. They're just not confident in taking a stand as to where at this time. Uh, so Friday's the day for probably a bigger outbreak, and then we'll see how we'll see how it goes through the weekend into next week. I would think, by the way, if we open the doors for weather systems to move across, that there are going to be some severe weather issues in certainly in parts of the southern half of the U.S. As indicated by SPC. I think there's going to be some issues along the way next week.
Thank you to Leon Pravitsky for hitting super chats tonight, and on the super chat box, he has. I'm not exactly sure what it's supposed to be, but there's the word noob above, flashing on and off in blue and orange and red. I did look up what noob purportedly means. It might be short for newbie, somebody who is inexperienced in a profession or activity, a person who is inexperienced in a particular sphere or activity, especially computing or the use of the internet. So I'm not sure if that's what exactly is being inferred here, but regardless, we thank you nonetheless for your contribution tonight, Mr. Pravitsky.
Thanks, Leon. Radar's busy in Maine tonight and northern New Hampshire and northern Vermont. It's been showery there all day. Also, a little bit of activity in north central New York coming off the lakes. We also have a little bit of activity occurring in the lower lakes around Chicago and Milwaukee, into southeastern Michigan, northern Indiana, northern Illinois, and extending back up into southern Wisconsin. And then, of course, we've got some of this activity where the severe weather is going to be a possibility tonight, and you're seeing some showers and thunderstorms, and even a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings that have popped up in southwest Kansas, and one in New Mexico, there in northeastern New Mexico. And we've got scattered activity from northwest Texas on up into Montana. In fact, some of the stuff that you see up here in Montana is in the form of snow, and that is about the only area where we have winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories up. We also have winter weather advisories up in northern Maine, so might still be. Let's see if it's snowing in Caribou. In the meantime, we've got freeze. I think those are freeze warnings. Yeah, freeze warnings. Southeastern Pennsylvania, away from the big cities, away from Philadelphia, more toward Lancaster, Harrisburg, York, down into central Maryland and northwestern Virginia. Also in southwest PA, Ohio, and West Virginia. And we've still got now we got another round of red flag warnings up in parts of Arizona and just about the whole state of New Mexico and into West Texas. Let's check out. Let's see what's going on up in Maine. Uh, Beautiful state. If you have not been to the great state of Maine, it is a
Somebody on the
gorgeous state.
chat board said it was snowing in Binghamton, but I'm just looking at the latest reading from Binghamton. This is as of 7 o'clock tonight. Northwest wind 14, gusting to 22. Overcast sky. Air temperature 33. Dew point 23. It was snowing early, very early this morning, around 8 o'clock. They had light snow, fog, and mist at a temperature of 34. Maybe it might be snowing, but not necessarily at the observation site at the airport. Maybe a few flakes in the air, but it just goes to show you, Joe, we're a few days away from May, and we're still seeing in portions of the Empire State a little bit of flaky weather.
Yeah, that rain's going to change over to snow in northern Maine, by the way. Caribou right now is 45 at the Caribou Municipal Airport. And I'm looking at the forecast for 2 miles northwest of New Sweden Station, Maine. Okay, which when I pointed it on the map, I tried to get as close to Caribou as possible. But they're going for rain changing to snow tonight, with maybe a quarter to a half inch of accumulation by morning. Snow and blowing snow tomorrow with a high of 34. New snow accumulations of 2 to 4 inches. and then another 1 to 3 possible Thursday night where they're going for a low of 31. So I'm sure they're going to have a little bit of sun angle to help them along to keep the. Well, they don't even. You know, they could care up there. I mean, seriously. In the dead of winter when they usually have their
Well,
normal
you know
snowfall
what?
amount, this is nothing to them.
I mean, but late April into at least the first half of May up there, Caribou and Madawaska, Fort Kent, this is what they call mud season usually. And I would suppose that with all of this moisture that's already falling over them and will continue for a little while, yes, indeed, it will be somewhat muddy as we kick off the new month of May up in the northern end of Maine.
So meanwhile, as far as rain is precip, liquid precip, and most of it across the country is in the form of rain over the next 7 days. So this takes us to Wednesday evening. So it only counts the first two systems next week, not the last one at the end of the week. Showing a half to 3/4 of an inch throughout most of the Northeast and down into the northern Mid-Atlantic. Mounts start to tail off a bit as you get down to southern New Jersey to Virginia. A couple of patches there of heavier stuff that WPC has in North and South Carolina. They are showing significant rains of 2 to 3 inches for the middle Mississippi Valley from East Kansas to Western Illinois, and also a big patch up in northern Nebraska to southern North Dakota of up to several inches, and then that extends and lessens a bit, but still significant across Montana, Wyoming, and into Idaho. Some of that's going to be in some form of snow, and on up into the Pacific Northwest. So let me just run through real quick the upper air here, just to show you what we were talking about earlier today about what's happening. So, here we are today. You can see the upper low that forms over Nova Scotia. Actually, this map on the last frame that I have up now is for tomorrow evening, and our flow is coming around that upper low. You see it just sitting there, really isn't moving very much, and you still have energy that's coming in to the Pacific Northwest. And it's kind of a double block here. We've got two low, there's another low that's sitting out in the Atlantic at about 40 and 50 or so. 40 and let's see, that's 70, 60, 50. That could be 40 and 40. Um, West of the Azores. And that's kind of holding the low over Nova Scotia in place, at least for a while. And as we move on into Friday, finally the Azores low goes away, and we can see that upper low exit and head toward Newfoundland. And now you start to see how the energy in the west, if you watch what's going on in the west, you start to see these troughs moving eastward. The first trough lifts up into the Great Lakes on Monday. The second one, there's some energy that comes into the Ohio Valley later on Tuesday with a stronger upper low back in the Dakotas. That one, at least from this run anyway, uh, is being forced southeastward because you've got another upper low that forms east of Newfoundland in that 50-50 position, and it drops the upper low off the New Jersey coast and then takes it out along 70. Now, look, it could show this now, and obviously it may not show it later. It could be that the low to the east could overpower it, and you get a much weaker system that gets absorbed by the offshore trough. We'll see, but it's kind of interesting to see this. And actually, if you look at follow the flow, this is May 9th, next Sunday. Take a look at the flow here. I mean, it's coming right down from northern Labrador into the South Atlantic states. I mean, that's a very, very chilly flow indeed. And it's a flow that I know the winter weather lovers would have loved to have seen back in January or in February or even in March, or dare I even say December, but you didn't. And that's life.
Yeah.
And after this, want to believe the long range. I mean, there's still troughing going on in the east going into mid-month. So probably going to have to wait at least through the middle of the month before the blocking starts to. The one good thing, Joe, that's at least promising is that the blocky pattern, if this is right, starts to disappear, or the North Atlantic oscillation, the negative North Atlantic oscillation begins to weaken around day 12, day 13. It doesn't completely go away, but it does begin to weaken. And if you believe the long range on day 16, it's just about gone. So this would sort of imply that instead of having what we have now, if weather systems are allowed to move, then maybe we could get into a situation where we actually can warm up for a couple of days in between weather systems. But that's a ways down the road. I mean, we're talking mid-month
Yeah.
and beyond here.
Sometimes when you look at these maps for 10 and 15 days out, and you say you can't say, okay, then we'll assume that that's going to be correct, because you can't assume that, because over a span of time, as you get closer to the event, something may happen. Something may not necessarily teleconnect, so to speak, or something may suddenly increase in progression across the continent, and uh, the ugly weather that you had anticipated would be there may not be so ugly when it actually gets to the time frame you're interested in, because it's moved out more quickly, or vice versa. The nice weather you think was going to hang around, it doesn't hang around for a while. So you got to be very careful when you look at these maps when you're talking about events 10 or 15 days or more down the road. I mean, if you want to, you can entertain yourself on tropical tidbits by going up to the seasonal part of the menu and looking at forecasts for, per week or per month. And I love looking at those
They never
maps that
change
take
though.
you all the way out to the early part of all the way out to next
No, I
January.
know those seasonal naps. I check them from time to time, like every couple of weeks. My curiosity will get the best of me, and I'll take a look at them. They always look the same. They just change the
Yeah,
dates, or as we used to say, they just
yeah,
ran the tape.
right, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, in fact, we could let's take a look at that in a moment. But here's our situation for this week and into the weekend. There's your nice little high. Just got to wait for the low to pull out. But you can see the gradient's tight here in the east. You also see a developing low there in southern Colorado that intensifies and moves northward up into western Iowa. So this is the severe weather producer, this deep low and the really strong flow that comes up from Texas northward through what eastern Kansas, western Missouri. So no wonder they got an enhanced risk there. There's also a little bit of snow. Unlike the past couple of storms, there's not a whole lot of cold air this time around on that side of the storm system. So there's a little bit of snow being indicated by the GFS in parts of North and South Dakota, but nothing to really scream home about. That low finally the offshore low goes out. The high is kind of pushed up into Canada for a while. So the first low moves to Lake Superior. There's a like an arm of showers that comes through Monday morning or early afternoon. That goes out, and then we've got the next energy that is coming east. You see that low in Illinois and into Ohio, western PA, and then sitting south of near Nantucket by Wednesday morning. So this looks like it'll bring some rain uh, maybe Tuesday afternoon into Wednesday morning, or almost all gone by Wednesday morning. And then the third weather system underneath the block, and this again, we'll have to watch to see how this evolves. You still have there's a nice little high there that's sitting near James Bay that's enveloped around the low, and you got like a primary that goes into northern Indiana and Ohio, and then suddenly you've got a low center off the New Jersey coast that's sitting south of Long Island there, and then takes its time as it moves out to the east. So that's what we'll be keeping our eyes on. And then there's yet another system around May 8th or 9th. We'll see if that holds together. That has a fair amount of precip with it, but that's a long ways down the road yet. But I feel pretty confident. At least next week is going to be a much different kind of week than this one. This one's been because of the fact. And by the way, I'm just noticing now on the next Tuesday, up in eastern Montana, North Dakota, western South Dakota. There's another little wrapped up low up there that produces some of that dark blue snow. So maybe they're not done yet with accumulating snow up in that part of the country.
No, well, we said yesterday that across a good part of Canada, there's still a lot of snow cover, and whatever airflow that takes form, that takes or advects over that snow cover, is going to be unusually cold, and it looks like a lot of that is going to be directed into the Plain States and the Great Lakes, and some of that actually reaches into here. So again, that is probably the primary reason why we're going to be seeing below normal temperatures over the next 1 to 2 weeks until we see any kind of a change or maybe a warming trend later in the month of May. And Birder Lady, thank you very much for hitting Super Chat. I noticed
Thank you,
earlier
Birder
on the
Lady.
chat board, Joe, that she got another saw another hummingbird today. I still am maintaining what I've been doing for the last 18 years or so. We'll not put out the feeders until the beginning of May, which will be on Sunday. And I'd be interested, Birder Lady, are you using the standard hummingbird feeders, the ones that look like a bottle with the flowers protruding out at the bottom? Then they, or my son Joe, a couple of years ago for Christmas, actually it may have been more than a couple of years ago, he went to the Dutchess County Fair and somebody sold him the most unusual looking hummingbird feeder. It looks like basically it looks like a waffle. It looks like a waffle with a rod protruding out from the top, from the middle of it, and you hang the feeder from that rod. And the hummingbirds, instead of heading for the bottle that contains the sugar water, you put the sugar water inside the waffle, so to speak, and there must be like 12 or 14 different holes or nozzles where the hummingbirds may be able to stick their beaks in to get to the sugar water. But I never saw a feeder like that.
Hmm.
And in fact, I tried using it the last couple of years, and the hummingbirds don't really go for that. They go for the standard type of feeders, although the guy who sold my son this hummingbird feeder said, the greatest thing since sliced bread. You'll never go back to the old feeders again. So I'm just wondering whether or not the birder lady knows what I'm talking about and whether or not she may have even used one of these weird looking feeders for the hummingbirds.
Well,
Anyway,
a bear got
that's,
my hummingbird feeder last year, so I
oh,
didn't put mine out. Yeah, it was hanging on one of those giant S hooks. So it couldn't have been a squirrel, or certainly not a bird. But I don't think it was a squirrel. But he took the whole thing, lifted it up off the S hook. So it had to be a bear. I never found the hummingbird feeder. Um, he,
right.
it was filled with the nectar, so I guess maybe
Yeah, the,
they took it to his buddies and they drank all night. I don't know. Uh,
some of these bears, like Bruno the Magnificent, he may have taken the hummingbird feeder off the S hook or whatever like that, unscrewed the top, and just simply, as you just said, he and his buddies probably went, with the
yes.
sugar water. By the way, don't, and I'm sure Birder Lady will agree. When you're feeding the hummingbirds, it has always been the practice of people putting red food coloring in to attract the birds, but that apparently does not work too well in the fact that, well, it does work, but it's not good for the birds, that food
Right.
coloring, and it's preferable not to put any coloring in at all. When the hummingbirds find your feeder, regardless of whether you have it in red food coloring or without, and it's preferable without, they will find it, they will go and they will drink the sugar water, and they will continue to keep coming, regardless again of whether or not you color the water. What I do, I when I first put them out, I put the red food coloring in just simply to try to attract them or get their attention. Like, hey, we're back. And then when they finish that first round, rest of the season, the rest of the spring and summer until I take them down sometime in September, early October, it stays just plain, you know, clear
Right.
with no, and the standard fare for hummingbirds is 1 part or 1 cup of sugar to 4 parts water, or 4 cups of water. And then you put that all in, you boil it, make a supersaturated solution, and stir until you get, everything nice and, you know, cleared up and whatever, and put it in the feeder, and boom,
Yep.
away you go.
Well, I've got my standard feeder at the front of the house where there's a male and female cardinal that frequent it on a daily basis, and they're very pretty to look at. So I'm happy for that. Maybe I'll get brave and put the try a new hummingbird feeder again. I'll see if I get inspired. Here's the climate models for the next 6 weeks, and at least past mid-month, when we get to this is May 11th. This is the average upper air from May 11th to May 18th. So the the blockiness is gone, and you see it there at the very beginning. The blockiness is gone, or about to go, and the flow does get a little more what we would say zonal, maybe toward and the 6 week, the last period here, the week 6 is June 1st to June 6th. Now, I would just caution that this is the CFS model, and CFS is an acronym for can't forecast, and then fill in the S word. So it does have a tendency to be highly erratic. And just for laughs, I'll just go to the monthly. The CFS monthlies are always just hilarious because, like I said, most of the time they don't really change very much. Yeah, look at this. I mean, it's really pretty much the same. It's a little troughing in the east during the month of August. That would be nice. And then, of course, I'm looking at all of this, Joe. Now the last month here is November, December, and January. I mean, it's the upper flow. The upper flow is not too bad for the snow lovers if you want to take an early look now. But I guarantee you, when I pull up the temperature anomaly for this, it's going to be above normal because that's all they ever do anyway. Let's see. 2 meter temperature anomaly. Oh my God, look at this. This is the anomaly for
January of
the. Oh,
2023.
look at this. How ridiculous is this? January 2023. All of North America, all of the Arctic is on fire. Look at that. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And I can tell you this: if we go back if we were to have done this maybe a couple of few months ago to look at the month of April, it did not show what what reality has played out. I think these models generally have a very warm bias to them. But I mean, come on. All of North America and the Arctic region is super above normal. I mean, what kind of an upper flow is this to be able to produce this? I don't know.
I don't know either. I
Yeah, I mean
uh,
that's just ridiculous.
I mean, up near Great Slave Lake, are they going to have a heat wave when we get to what is this now? That was valid for May of 2022. I thought you were still in the January,
Wait, hang on a second.
uh,
I lost you
no,
here.
January 2023 map.
Uh, the last map that I have
Yeah,
on
heat.
I think the last
Yeah,
map I
heat
have on
wave.
the screen is was January. Which map is this? This was
Yeah,
for, yeah,
January
January
2023, Joe. I've seen.
2023. Yeah, that's where the whole world is above normal. There's a little bit of patch
So is that the
out of the ocean at about 50 and at about 50 and 40. That's got a little patch of below average temperatures, and also somewhere in South America there in Colombia, I guess, where it's a little smidge of below normal temperatures.
all right? Well, if you want to believe it, go ahead and believe it. That's only 9 months from now.
I know, yeah,
So a lot can happen in 9 months.
exactly. Let's make sure we place our bets now based on that. So let's do a little Briller Jeopardy here at 8:11 Eastern Time on this fabulous night. Uh, of, Here we go. Let me find it. Where is it? Okay. So, Mr. Rayo, um, it's time for these are records in Le Parc de Centrale for May, all within 5. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Um, let's see. Wait, I want to just before I tell you the first question, let me see if we could do this in reverse. Um, okay, here we
Meanwhile,
go.
Daniel. Oh, okay.
Here we go. I'm going to do this backwards. I'm going to give you the answer, and then you're going to give me the question.
Okay.
Okay. Um, May 19th, 1962.
May 19th, 19. Is this for Central Park, by the way?
Yes, New York City Central Park.
Okay.
Just to add a little
May
added twist, is
19th.
May 19th, 1962.
I'm going to say it's the only time in the history of Central Park where the temperature. No, I don't think the last time the temperature dipped as low as the freezing mark, 32 degrees in Central Park. The latest that the temperatures dipped is 32 in Central Park.
You should have gone the opposite. It's
I
the
would,
what
the
what
first time it ever hit a.
what is the highest temperature ever recorded? Well, I've told the story about how it actually did get to 101,
Oh,
but the forecaster, the observer was threatened by the forecaster to change it to 99 if he wanted to live to see the next
right.
day. 99 and May 19th, 1962. Okay, the next one is May 6th, 1891.
May 6th, 1891. Well, how about that is when the temperature hit 32, the latest in the season that the temperature at Central Park hit 32 degrees.
And it was the well. I will give this to you. It says what was the lowest temperature in May, in the month of May? 32 in May 6th, 1891. Okay, it's just I guess it
Okay.
happened to be 32, but anyway. Next one is May 5th, 1891.
May 5th, 1891. How about the heaviest amount of rain that has ever been recorded in the month of May?
Uh, no, this was the day before that, the morning of the 32. So it was the coldest day. What is the coldest daytime high in May, which was 43 on May 5th, 1891.
Wow.
Now here's the final answer. 2020, 1977. You should be able to get this. 2020, 1977,
May
1956,
9th,
and 1946.
1940. Wait a minute. Repeat this again. 2020,
2020,
1976.
1977, 1956,
Right.
1946.
And it's the date is May the 9th?
Uh, no, the date is not important here. The actual date of the ninth is not necessarily important here.
Okay,
Although
well
it
then,
although it might be for some of those, it might not be for
well,
all of them.
2020, we remember very well 2020 and 1977. On the 9th of May, we had a trace of snow. Now, it is possible before the 9th of May that there were other years where a trace fell in the month of May. So I'm going to say in 56, the year of my birth. And the other year that you mentioned, I'll say all of those years, a trace of snow recorded at Central Park.
And that is correct. The 4 years that they recorded a trace of snow in Central Park. Johnny Quest just messaged me to let me know that that was in the valley nearby where he is, not in the mountains themselves. He was kind of saved up in the mountains, and that shot of hail was indeed all hail. So okay, very good. It's very impressive. It was certainly very impressive. Um, so anyway, I uh, I had breakfast for dinner tonight. I made a giant pancake with scrambled eggs, and it was delicious.
You know, if I had that, my A1C would go off the wall probably when I test it tomorrow morning. I try to stay away from that. Tonight we had pizza, and it was it's not your standard, the kind you'd get at Domino's. It's what's the what's
I don't even want to consider Domino's, but go on.
but I mean it was like the kind of you would get at Pizza Hut.
Uh,
The thick crust and
no, I'm not understanding this. I'm not understanding a concept of like Pizza Hut or Domino's, but that's me. I'm a traditionalist. I'm sorry.
anyway, you stick it in the oven and 25 minutes later it's done. And I could only have I could only stand one slice tonight. I could not have. So Renata said, "Well, guess what? For lunch tomorrow, you have two slices instead of one slice of pizza." And I looked at the pizza and I said, "Maybe I'll have a bologna sandwich tomorrow." That's. I'm not hungry.
You'll just pick.
I'll pick.
Either that or
Yes.
have a turkey sandwich and a cup of coffee. No, I don't care for nothing.
Yes.
Oh
I'll have
God.
what on top. Remember the TV show Top Cat? Benny the Bald, the little short guy with the who was the blue cat, and his favorite for lunch every day was a hot pastrami sandwich with a hard-boiled egg and lots of pepper.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I meant to tell you, I drove to North Carolina today, into Mayberry, and met some friends for lunch. It was good. It was interesting. It was a nice lunch. Just
By the way, those of you who have Me TV on Sunday, the 1st of May, Me TV has declared that Mayberry Day, and you will have a chance to see all kinds of episodes involving the Mayberians. Is there such a term, Mayberians? Natives of Mayberry, including the Little Scene movie that was made in 1986, Return to Mayberry. What all of them were doing, more than 20 years after or 15 years after the last episode of Mayberry, they all got together again, and they made a movie, a reunion movie, and you'll be able to see that plus a whole bunch of other Mayberry related items on Me TV on Sunday, the 1st of May.
you just
This is
re-
a special programming note for all of you who
you
are interested.
you just reminded me that Turner Classic Movies tonight is running. I mean, they're running a bunch of mostly god awful horror movies. The Queen from Outer Space was on a little while ago. I watched about 5 minutes of it. And I just I couldn't stop laughing. And the movie Them. I don't know if you remember the movie Them. I think that was about
I've heard of it, but I know.
giant ants. So I don't.
Oh God.
I'm not on the horror genre. Unless it's a Vincent Price movie, I'm not a big. I'm not big uh, on horror movies in general. Uh, I find a lot of them just very campy. After once after if you I just sit there. Somebody's getting chainsawed, and I would just burst out laughing. So I was never fun. I was never one to be taken to a movie theater for a horror movie because
As a
I would just see the comedy in all of it.
as a kid, I used to just watch the on Channel 9, the $1 Million Movie. They would play a movie over and over and over again during the course of a week, and they were always showing monstrous movies. The giant behemoth, the deadly mantis, the beast from 20,000 fathoms.
Right.
I loved watching those movies. They always attacking New York or some other big city like London, or Mothra, where the giant moth, the giant caterpillar built a built a on Tokyo Tower, built a giant cocoon. And it was always strange with Mothra. They always had dinky these two women who was always singing to the giant
Yeah.
moth, and they were always kept like in a bird cage. Remember that?
Yes.
I never could understand that. Or Raymond Burr, Perry Mason in the original Godzilla. It's crazy.
The chairman, Scott Briller, hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, Scott. And he says everyone had to go into my COVID job tonight. They may need him back in the month of May. So just stay safe as you make your rounds, Mr. Scott. And again, thank you for hitting super chat and all our super chat hits tonight. It was the birder lady and Leon.
And
Pervitsky,
Leon, yes.
Leon of Lindenhurst, who I often share his videos on my Facebook page. So anyway, by the way, just to remind everybody, if you go to the community page on my YouTube channel, you can access some of my website posts from there that I do on a daily basis to say add a little bit of color to what's going on weather-wise. So just letting you know that. And on that note, um,
I think we're done.
yes, we are. For a day where not much is going on. We carried the show almost a full hour, so um,
Yes.
sometimes we find a way. So I guess we'll be back tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern Time. We'll look to see what
Yes, we will.
the short range is pretty set up through Sunday, but maybe we'll get a clearer look of what's happening for next week. So thanks everybody for being here tonight. Most appreciated. Welcome to any of you who are new to the channel. We're here on days when there's not much weather going on, and we're here on days where there's lots of weather going on. So we don't just come on when at least for weather folks, things are exciting. We just, we try to do this on a regular basis. Take a couple of days off every week, uh, usually Friday and Saturday, unless there is something going on those days, and then we'll just probably move things around. But yeah, it's funny. I had one person complain saying I shouldn't be putting weather on except when there was something going on. And my response to that was, okay, I'm sure the entire world revolves around your axis. That it only has meaning for you when weather is going on. But there are people that want to know what the weather is, regardless of whether there's quote unquote something going on, because there's always something going on. It's just sometimes it's benign, and sometimes it is not. So I just want to make that.
Well, we'll hold off
I just want to make that
tomorrow
point.
night. Tomorrow night you could spend as much as time as you want to kill some time and answer what Billy the Kid had put up on the chat board even before the show began, or actually right after the show began. He writes, "Scientist Chiaffi." How does it feel, Joe, to be called
Yes,
Scientist
thank you.
Chiaffi?
Appreciate that.
Sci- Scientist Scientist Chiaffi. What is a Super 8? Don't
Oh,
answer that. We'll keep everybody in suspense until tomorrow night when Joe will tell everybody what a Super 8
it
is.
it's a place where you hope they clean the sheets in between. I'm sure there are lovely Super 8s. I'm sorry, you don't know what a Super 8 is? It's a hotel, a motel. Um, God.
I told
Oh,
you you could have saved it for tomorrow night and then got into more of it tomorrow night.
you know what?
Maybe you still
Billy the
can.
Kid, well, Billy the Kid. When the apocalypse comes, you can go hole up in a Super 8. You'll be completely safe there. All right, everybody. Just kidding. Okay, everybody, have a great night, and Joe and I will see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
Nighty night.